Hey there, Nate Urandi, Orion Training Systems, back for another installment here. Had a couple requests to cover some events in a video as opposed to writing another blog, so I thought I would comply, if you will. So Patrick Dixon, this one's for you. So first of all, welcome to Hoogerland. Love this t-shirt. If you remember back, I don't remember the year, but Juan Antonio Fleca, Johnny Hoogerland, and a couple of others, might have been Vogler, Thomas Vogler as well, and maybe one or two others were in this breakaway in the Tour de France. One of the cars, press cars came by, clipped, to avoid a massive tree, clipped Fleca and Hoogerland, sent Hoogerland into the barbed wire. And man, he was massively cut up. But he continued. He had the King of the Mountains jersey for a while. You know, pretty inspiring story. In any case, love the t-shirt. So today, a couple topics. One, some interesting things happening here, both currently and in the coming days. First of all, David Miller, the apocryphal anti-doping BSer, who is no better than Lance Armstrong, yet for some reason ends up being celebrated and put on a pedestal. He's coming out with a video in a few days. A video was made, a video biog, if you will, about time trialing. You know, what's interesting, Lance Armstrong, Miller, one loses millions, the other makes millions. Miller, you know, is no different because he vilified Philippe Gaumont. I don't know if I pronounced that properly, so apologies. But Philippe spoke out against Miller, and Miller just basically cast him off the way Lance Armstrong cast off all the people that he similarly vilified. So how are they really different? You know, again, Miller's BS biog is released in a few days. I think it's on the 5th. Yet he refuses to talk about drugs in it. So his excuse is that he's already talked about his drug use, ped use, I should say, just to be clear, thousands of times. Who the fuck cares? If you're the poster boy that you purport to be for clean cycling after being caught, and the only reason you got caught is because your phones were tapped and they knew where you were gonna be, and they knew you had the drugs on hand. Otherwise, you would have coasted through the rest of your career, supposedly clean, but totally doped to the gills. So, fuck you. If you're the poster boy you purport to be, you talk about it. You answer the questions. You accept the scrutiny however and whenever it comes. So, you know, Miller, Omerta is living large with you. Next, if you haven't seen it, Serena Williams is in the news again. The gist, a tester shows up to her place of residence for an out-of-competition doping test. She's not home. The tester waits. Williams gets home, refuses to test, for some reason feels miffed, calls the CEO of the WTA, the World Tennis Association, who speaks with her and says, you know, I should connect you with Travis Tigert, who is the head of the U.S. anti-doping agency, USADA. So he does that, and Tigert actually takes the frickin' call, and they talk, and she bitches about not wanting to be tested, and thus Tigert cancels the test. Think about that. So much is wrong with that. First of all, that she has direct access to those two people. Secondly, that she can use that access as a lifeline. Thirdly, the preferential treatment to her. Fourthly, an out-of-competition test gets canceled. It's like, glow much? And lastly, the disturbing precedent it now sets. Like, Tigert and the head of WTA should be fired immediately, should totally lose their jobs. And Williams should never be able to play tennis again until she explains what happened and opens herself up to that scrutiny. Remember, I don't care how we found out that Fancy Bears leaked this or whatever the fuck. She and her sister, between them, have applied for and gained 16 TUEs. Think about that. How sick do you have to... I mean, her nickname on the tennis circuit is Sick Note, because she always gets sick and always gets a note for it and then always blows the competition away. It's like Froome being called Puff the Dragon. People know that he's full of shit about his asthma, but what can they do? Well, what they could do is like strike any race he's on, just say, screw him, we're not racing. It can be a race of 1 or a race of 8 or however many people on a team, and so Sky can race against themselves and get the top 8. I mean, that's what I would do. But in any case, the precedent that was just set is astounding, and I don't know if it's just going to be swept under the rug or if something's actually going to come of it. You know, she's competing in Wimbledon now, and she actually canceled her pre-Wimbledon press conference. She says it's because she wants to be with Meghan Markle in the royal family about some bullshit. But, you know, that's convenient, and it might be true, but tell me it's not, at least in little part, if not a large part, because of this crap that she just pulled. Tell me it's not about that. Of course it is. So it reminded me of the myth of the Procrustean bed. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a bed that existed, and in order to sleep in it, your limbs got severed so that your body fit the length of the bed. And if you think about it, that's where the saying, you made the bed, you got to sleep in it, originated. You have to take ownership of the reality you create and perpetuate. So elite athletes who cheat, whether it's Williams or Miller or Armstrong or Froome or a soccer player or a football, you name it, a track and field athlete, any of the athletes who cheat are creating their own Procrustean beds. And they may not be sleeping in them yet. And they lie and they deceive and they harass and they threaten and they bully and they sue and they deflect and they avoid and they sidestep and they ignore, as they all do. Well, guess what? Eventually, they will have to sleep in that bed. And it won't feel good, that's for damn sure. So I'm going to leave you with that. As always, leave your comments below, and happy training.